Duke and Stetson. Now it's Stetson in the lead. Lane 2, UNC, and lane 3, Duke. UNC and Duke kind of battling out right back there, just behind them. Rollins now may have come up a little bit closer to that group. Also Purdue in lane 6. Lane 1, which is Northwestern, looks like they have slipped back behind the pack just a bit. I don't think Rollins and Purdue are going to have enough room left to make an inroad into those 3 other boats there. And I may be wrong. Rollins look like they're rowing very cleanly here as we come into this last 300 meters. Bodies are moving together, blades are going in and out together, and Rollins, I think, is putting on a show here at the end to get into this, at least in the 2nd or 3rd position, where I think they were trailing before. The Duke men trying to hold Rollins down. Rollins might have started a little bit early. Their bodies are getting a little bit more ragged now as they come down into the red buoys. I see the coxswain of Duke looking over at the Rollins boat, seeing if they can hold them off. Rollins getting a little bit tired here, but still in potential contention for 2nd. Stetson's the one leading this race by open water. Rollins now getting a little bit cleaner here as they go in the last few strokes. Rollins with a couple of feet over him. And Rollins in there for 2nd. Duke men for 3rd. Purdue for 4th. And the UNC for 5th, Northwestern for 6th. All right, we got that A final now of the men's varsity 4. Texas in lane 1, William and Mary in 2, Embry-Riddle in 3, FIT in lane 4, Virginia in 5, and Georgia Tech in lane 6. That race is off. They're probably about 250 meters into it. And as soon as we can, we'll give you what we can see from the tower here. Now approaching right past the 500-meter mark in this men's varsity 4 A final, the one for the medals. Middle of the course, you got FIT, white boat, the red and gray striped jerseys. Right next to them is Embry-Riddle in Virginia. Embry-Riddle would typically be your top seed in lane 3. FIT would be your second seed in lane 4. But we've seen Virginia do quite a bit of damage here in a number of races today. William and Mary also right there. Georgia Tech is probably the only one that's behind that pack. Lane 1, Texas is behind that pack by a little bit, but not by much. So right out in front now, it looks like it's Embry-Riddle and the FIT William and Mary boats. So we got our drone shots back online here. If you're watching, that was the Embry-Riddle boat that was out in front by maybe a half a length on FIT, maybe less than that. And now you see the shot from up the tower here. So yeah, I'd say we're looking half a length. We got a pretty well a V-shaped pattern here coming down the course with Riddle in the lead. FIT in second. They are followed closely by William and Mary in lane 2. The other boats, lane 1, which is Texas, lane 5, which is Virginia, sitting back off those top 3 by a little bit. Texas probably in 4th place. We'll see when they get a little bit closer up here. Riddle now looks like they're extending their lead a little bit. With was about a half a boat length early in the race. Now it's coming close to a full boat length. We'll see if we can get some ratings in there. Come to the 500-meter mark to go. 38 for FIT. Again, for the medals, these guys are going to be throwing everything they have at it. Embry-Riddle are going to be doing the same thing. Embry-Riddle at 36.5. FIT a little bit higher. But Riddle's got that advantage. Riddle's got that boat length advantage, maybe even breaking a little bit of water here. 3/4 of a length for Riddle. FIT at 36. I had him a little bit higher earlier. It could be my errors on this thing, but Riddle and FIT basically stand dead even here. The bow of FIT sitting on the 3 seat of Embry-Riddle. Now on the red buoys. Riddle rowing 37 strokes a minute, FIT about the same. Riddle, very clean bodies moving exactly together. FIT running the rating up even higher, trying to close that gap. They're running out of room. They got less than 10 strokes. FIT at 41 strokes a minute, open water behind. Back to William and Mary. Coming up on the inside now, Virginia coming up on the inside very quickly into William and Mary. 2 strokes to go. Virginia with a 1-foot lead, likely over William and Mary right at the very end. So Embry-Riddle FIT, and I'm not going to call the next one. That was a little bit too close. So Embry-Riddle with the gold, FIT with the silver, and the bronze will have to wait. All right, we got to run back down here to the women's varsity 8. This is the Club A final. LSU, Louisiana State University in 1, Virginia Tech 2, Clemson 3, University of Georgia in 4, Florida in 5, and Emory University in lane 6. Nice side shot of the 8s there. The blue boat in the middle belonging to Clemson University. And just this side of them is UGA. So UGA, as they cross those buoys, you can see a straight line of the buoys there. UGA with a deck length lead over Clemson. Clemson with about a deck length lead over Virginia Tech on the far side of the course. And you can see the bow of the University of Florida slipping back here just a little bit. Georgia now adding another seat to their lead. The bows of Clemson and Virginia Tech basically dead even now. Georgia continuing to add another seat or two as they accelerate that boat. They're moving about what we would call about a half a seat per stroke, extending that lead now. The coxswain of the Georgia boat sitting on the 2 seat of the other 2 boats, which are still bow to bow. Here closer to the camera, University of Florida just off the sterns of now second place Virginia Tech, and third place Clemson. Virginia Tech now moving up a bit on the lead of Georgia. Georgia has given up some of those seats they had earlier. Now Virginia Tech closing on the Georgia lead as they come into the 1,000-meter mark. Sometimes it's surprising to see how quickly things can move, and on the other hand, it's surprising sometimes how things never move. But in this case, is someone going faster here? Is Georgia slowing down a little bit? Is Virginia Tech picking up speed? Did Clemson lose a little bit of energy? Could be all of the above. So from the drone, it is Virginia Tech coming up on the field, challenging for that lead. It looks like the energy spent by Clemson has had them, they paid a little bit too much for that. It is now Virginia Tech and Georgia, and Virginia Tech has been moving up on that. Remember, Georgia had almost a 3/4 boat length lead, and now it looks like it's coming down to much less than that, maybe a quarter length. As they come across the buoy line here, see the 1,000-meter make, that went from 3/4 length to 1/4 length lead, and now Virginia Tech has a full boat length over Florida, or over Clemson, excuse me. So that was quite a move there by the Virginia Tech boat to come from, 3/4 of a boat length down to up to within probably a deck now. So are they holding their speed better than Georgia? Or is Georgia tiring a little bit? It makes no difference if you're able to overtake that leader. Virginia at only 31 and a half strokes a minute. Again, if they can do that and remain in control and haul down a leading crew and save that energy for the sprint, that's a good thing. Let's see what Georgia's doing here. Georgia a little bit higher, 33 strokes a minute. In the camera view, Georgia still holding that little bit of a lead. They haven't given it any more of it back to them. It's about a quarter length, maybe a half a length, depends on how we're crossing those buoy lines. Oh yeah, Georgia's taken back at least that quarter length they gave up. Now it's back to a half a length lead over the Virginia Tech crew. Clemson trying to hang in there. They're a little bit open water down, about a half a length open water down, but they're going to run out of space here if they're going to try and get in there. But at least they're in it for a potential bronze medal. So here comes Virginia Tech again, trying to close that gap. They were half a length down 15, 20 strokes ago. Let's see where they are now. One of the things I look for when they're coming to the line here is, do we see clean splashes on both sides of the boat, or are we getting jets of water that are out of place, which would be inefficiency? And see a little more splashing coming from that Georgia boat, a little cleaner coming from that Virginia Tech boat. Let's see what happens. Has Virginia Tech taken them down? Little dragging blades on the Georgia boat. Virginia Tech looking clean. It is Virginia Tech that's coming in with 4 strokes to go with that nose out in front. Yes, Virginia Tech over Georgia. Georgia had that early lead, held it for a long time, but what happened? They got a little bit tired at the end. The blade work got a little bit sloppier. That slows you down. University of Florida now in lane 5, coming across in 4th. Emory in 5th. And Louisiana 6th. We've got the next event coming up here, which is the women's varsity 8 B final, the petite final. They're already off the line. That is University of Dayton B boat in lane 1, FIT in 2, Embry-Riddle in 3, Purdue in 4, Rollins in 5, and Purdue B boat in lane 6. And you're getting a shot from the starting line. They've already gone off. They're past that 200-meter mark. Is a charge down the course. So from the drone shot, looking down towards that starting line, you can see those 6 boats coming towards us. And the middle of the pack there, lanes 2, 3, and 4, which is FIT, Embry-Riddle, and Purdue. Looks like they've got a little bit of lead on the outside cruise, which would be Purdue B boat, and the Rollins and University of Dayton boat. So in this group here, FIT, Embry-Riddle, Rollins are in line for selection for the NCAA Division II championship coming up the end of May. So these races here count towards their rankings. So they're doing everything they can to beat one of those other ones in there. The club boats, University of Dayton and the Purdue boats, would not be part of the NCAA selection. So here in this group here, you see Embry-Riddle out in front now. The Purdue A boat right there with them. Embry-Riddle with about a quarter-length lead over Purdue, and FIT about a half a length back of Purdue. Purdue making a nice move here, bringing their bows basically up level with the Embry-Riddle boat. So top 3 boats right now, Purdue and Embry-Riddle neck and neck. Purdue just made a move in the last 10, 15 strokes where they were down by a quarter length or a deck length. Now they're up by a quarter length or deck length. FIT still overlapping with Embry-Riddle, but almost bow to stern. Purdue at 33 strokes a minute. Same with Embry-Riddle, 33 strokes a minute. We'll see if we can get a rate on FIT here. FIT a little bit higher, about 34 and a half. FIT still got a tiny bit of overlap with the two lead boats. So the two lead boats basically neck and neck. Even Purdue maybe with a few feet over Embry-Riddle, but it's bow to stern FIT on those two boats. So a couple hundred meters past that 1,000-meter mark now. And again, the two lead boats, Purdue, by a deck length over Embry-Riddle. Embry-Riddle and Purdue now just a couple of feet of open water over FIT. So they've actually broken that link between FIT with several boat lengths of open water behind those trailing them. Rollins in lane 5. Over there on the far side of the course, the University of Dayton women. So it's 3-4 boat lengths of open water there. And still, Purdue and Embry-Riddle are nose to nose. They haven't moved more than a couple of feet from each other all along. Here comes Embry-Riddle. Embry-Riddle putting a push on here at the end, sticking their bow ball out in front of Purdue again. And the space between those two and FIT is maybe a quarter length of open water. I think FIT's losing a little bit of ground to them as these two leaders try and knock it out bow ball to bow ball. And Embry-Riddle now pushing their bow out in front by, again, they're seesawing back and forth. It's really almost impossible to tell because you'll see one bow stick out and then the other one. So if it comes down to this, it might be who's in what part of the stroke at the finish. .35.5 strokes a minute for Purdue. .37 for Embry-Riddle. .34 for FIT. Purdue with the lead in the red buoys here as they go into the last 15, 20 strokes. Purdue with a slight lead. .41 strokes a minute for Embry-Riddle. .37 for Purdue. Purdue going to take it with a half a boat length lead. All right, let's jump back to the starting line. This is the A final. This is the one for the medals. And we've got Kansas State B boat in lane 1, Virginia 2, Wisconsin 3, University of Central Oklahoma in 4, Kansas State in 5, and University of Dayton in lane 6. That, if you're watching this right in front of us, Kansas State in lane 5 is the, I won't call it the early leader because we're not looking straight across the course. If I had to guess, we're probably level. So once you get out of that start, that high stroking racing start, and you have to shift it down, that shift is crucial for what happens in the next few hundred meters. So K-State in lane 5, we can't see the Dayton women in lane 6 at the moment. K-State in lane 5 looks to have a little bit of a lead here off that starting line. Going to the far side of the course, Kansas State B women, B boat in would appear to be fourth place position, followed by Virginia in the fifth place position. Again, we don't know where the Dayton women are nearest to us, but K-State holding on to what appear to be about a quarter length lead over almost bow to bow Wisconsin and Central Oklahoma. 5 boats overlapping at the moment as they cross the 500-meter mark. Wisconsin now nosing out ahead of Central Oklahoma. Wisconsin also nosing into K-State's lead. On the far side of the course, the K-State B boat also pushing their bow out in front of the Virginia women. So Virginia and Central Oklahoma slipping back of those 3 leaders, the 2 K-State boats and the Wisconsin boat in the middle. Kansas State at 35.5 strokes a minute as they cross that buoy line. You can see it, K-State with about a deck length lead over Wisconsin. And dropping into the boats behind there, we have Central Oklahoma now making up some of that ground they'd given up before. Virginia also making up a little bit of ground. K-State B boat slipping back a little bit more into that what appears to be a 5th place position, but you got 5 boats still overlapping here. Now we can see that 6th boat of Dayton there. Not off the pace. Dayton boat's probably maybe a boat length back of the pack, if that. K-State and Wisco. K-State's A boat and Wisco still leading. Boat length out on the field. And Virginia women now getting their run in now. That bow overlapping with the 2 leaders. Central Oklahoma and K-State B boat pretty much level inside. The Dayton women now, they're overlapping with Central Oklahoma. They're overlapping with lane 1 K-State B boat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boats. You could almost step from one to the other and never put your feet in the water. So the Dayton women are holding their own here in lane 6. You got K-State now with about a half a length or maybe a quarter length lead, a little bit more than what they had before. Wisconsin overlapping with Virginia there. Virginia now inching up slightly on Wisconsin. Central Oklahoma, maybe a quarter length of open water down on the leaders of K-State. Far side of the course, the K-State women's B boat overlapping with Virginia. Near side of the course in lane 6, Dayton women overlapping with UCO as well as the K-State women's B boat. .34 strokes a minute for Wisconsin, with a 3/4 length lead over Virginia. Virginia with about the same amount over University of Central Oklahoma. And the Dayton women, and on the far side of the courts, the Kansas State B boats, all still, really not much has changed. It looks like the K-State leaders and the A boat have moved out a little bit gradually over time. Still that 3/4 difference between Wisconsin and Virginia. Now finally, those the Virginia boat breaking a little bit of open water between UCO and the 2 trailing boats on the outside of the courses, and K-State continuing to move gradually away from the field. As they come down to the wire here in the red buoys now by about 3 or 4 strokes, maybe 20 strokes to go. Virginia trying to haul down Wisconsin. K-State in a good solid position to win it. Silver medals in contention here between Wisconsin and Virginia. Wisconsin got that edge though. Coming into 5 strokes to go, 6 strokes to go. It's Wisconsin over Virginia. Behind them across the field of K-State, Central Oklahoma, and Dayton, all within a deck length of each other. A good row, a good row. All right, we're going to go back up to the starting line for the men's varsity 8. This is the C-level final. It's a 4-boat race between Georgia in lane 2, Clemson in 3, Virginia Tech in 4, and Louisiana State University in lane 5. And they are sitting on the starting blocks right now. See a little bit of movement of the blades there, trying to get the coxswain getting their points, make sure they're pointed right down the center of the course. Again, they start off these blocks with a couple of short strokes to get the boats moving, usually 5 strokes, sometimes as much as 7, but by the time they reach the 7th stroke, they're usually at full length and full pressure. It takes about 10 strokes or so to get the boats up to full speed. They'll run maybe 20 strokes or thereabouts, plus or minus 5 at a high rating, usually in the low 40s per minute. And then they'll try and shift that rate down to 36, 34, depends on what the coach is having them trained at and where they have instructed them to try and hold on to the rating. The fallacy is you can't win a race off the start, but you can certainly lose one. So a good racing start is critical. A good shift to the body of the race is critical. I guess everything is critical. So as they take off like that, you see the referee launch come in behind them, and he's observing, making sure there's no issues with course or breakage or anything like that, because anything can happen. There is a 100-meter breakage line. If anything happens in those boats in the first 100 meters that something breaks, they can actually call the race off and start it over again once they have the repairs done. You see far less breakage these days with the carbon fiber boats and oars as opposed to the old days with wooden equipment. So usually on a men's varsity crew, they will get through the first 500 meters in about 1 minute and 24 seconds or thereabouts, plus or minus a few. Some crews will try to go faster, but then again, you can pay a higher price for that. So that's probably a typical number for what we see here at Oak Ridge. Well, from our drone shot here, you can see the 2 boats in the middle of the course, which are Virginia and Clemson, leading the 2 outside crews of Louisiana State University and University of Georgia. And it looks like Clemson's got that early lead through that first 500 meters, followed by Virginia Tech close behind. So nice drone shot there. We're happy to have them doing that. It makes a big, big difference on how races can be viewed. And little changes in the relative positions of there. Just a few seconds ago, it looked like we had Clemson out in front. Now it's clear that Virginia Tech is running that lead position. How quickly things can change when the angles change if you're in a static point of view. So Virginia Tech, half a length over Clemson University. And both of those boats now with a good half a length or more over the two trailing boats of Georgia in lane 1 and Louisiana State University in lane 5. Virginia Tech rowing 34.5 strokes a minute, half a length up on Clemson. Almost bow to bow between Georgia and the Louisiana State University. But a boat length of open water down on second place Clemson. Clemson still holding on to that half length deficit over Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech trying to break free a little bit more here, and looks like they may be doing some success with it. I'm watching the spacing of their blades on the puddles that they send by, and Virginia Tech getting a little bit what we call positive run, the boat running out between strokes when the blades are in the air. You can kind of tell how efficient a boat is based upon whether the rowers, the blades can clear the puddles of the previous stroke. So Virginia Tech now coming up on almost a full boat length. Almost. There's still overlap there between the two. They're actually given a little bit more space between themselves and the boats behind. Louisiana State University has the edge now over Georgia on the far side of the course, but those two boats are also still overlapping pretty closely, within half a length of each other. .34.5 strokes a minute for Clemson, and still about 3/4 of a length difference between the two, with Virginia Tech having that advantage. Into the red buoys now. It is Virginia Tech. At last look was 3/4 a length over Clemson. We'll see what it does at the end here, whether Clemson can haul it in. It's not going to be enough room for Clemson to overtake them, but they're trying. Clemson at 38 strokes a minute. Virginia Tech at the same, both boats at 38. About a deck length difference between the two boats as they cross the line. First and second, Virginia Tech and Clemson in that order. All right, we're going to zoom back up to the starting line. The next level, the petite final, is on the docks, on the starting platforms, and they just took off. That's Michigan State in 1, Delaware in 2, Stetson 3, Purdue 4, UNC in 5, and Central Florida in 6. So the first couple of strokes out of the starting platforms. Lane 3, lane 4 and 5, that is Stetson, Purdue, UNC, are getting their bows out in front. Stetson being the one with the appear to be the quickest bow. Central Florida giving a big shot here off the starting line, though. See if they can't gain a little bit of advantage. If they can, are they able to sustain it? So maybe putting a little bit more effort out there on the start to see if they can't hold on to any kind of a lead here there in lane 6. And there goes Stetson. Stetson now settling in. Remember, we talked about shifting the rating. They did a great shift, and at that shift, they jumped that boat right out in front where we had 3 bows across. They do a very nice shift to establish that lead as they come off those high strokes. So you can see, if you're watching, how effective that is to shift that rating down properly. Because as soon as they did that, they jumped out half a boat length. All these other boats tend to fall back, because if you're inefficient on that, then you're wasting energy or not putting enough into it. Sometimes when you shift it, you tend to let off a little bit. So a nice pattern view from the air here as we look down the course in lane 3. That is Stetson University, as we saw before, making that half-length jump as they came off that high racing start. They're followed by Delaware and Purdue. Over there in lane 1, Michigan State University on their tail as well. Just slightly behind that, UNC in lane 5 and Central Florida in lane 6. Remember, Central Florida had a good start, but couldn't hang on to that. Here's Stetson now pushing out in front of the field. Again, a little bit more. 3/4 of a boat length over Delaware and Purdue. And seem to be extending that a little bit more as they go into the middle of the second 500. Stetson now getting their bow, or excuse me, their stern on the bow balls of both Purdue and Delaware. So here they come up that 500 meter line. It is Stetson 3/4 of a length over Purdue. Purdue with about 2/3 of a length over Delaware. And over there in lane 1, Michigan State University basically tied with UNC, and Central Florida just slightly behind. Overlap between first and second, second and third, third, fourth, fifth. I mean, basically all boats overlapping with the exception of Stetson, now just about to break free of the bow of Purdue. So they're crossing the 1,000. My guess is they have a move planned at the 1,000. Whether Purdue has a move, they can counter it. Stetson certainly jumped out there by a good 1/4 boat length, maybe 1/3 of a boat length right there as they went through that 1,000 meter mark. So now Stetson breaking the barrier between the two boats. Just a few feet of open water now between Stetson and Purdue. Purdue and Delaware still overlapping. Delaware actually making up some ground on Purdue as they are pushing through this third 500. The other boats on the far side, Michigan State University in 4th, it looks like, and 5th is UNC, and still overlapping them, Central Florida. So here we are with 500 meters to go. It is Stetson with a few feet of open water over Purdue. Purdue still overlapping with Delaware, probably 3/4 of a length lead over Delaware. Again, this is the B final, the petite final, for positions 7 through 12. So right. If you're watching the cameras now, we're on the starting platform for the grand final of the men's varsity 8. And they're just sitting ready. We've got about 5 minutes before the start, so we're going to go back to the race at hand on the B final. This is the Stetson University leading this with a boat length over Delaware and Purdue. Delaware has made up some ground on Purdue. We don't know whether they've got it, but definitely has made up ground on Purdue. Purdue with probably a quarter length over Delaware at the moment as they come to the line here. Stetson in first. A couple of feet of open water over Purdue. Purdue with a half a length over Delaware. Delaware with a quarter length open water over Michigan State. Michigan State with a full boat over UNC, and UNC with a full boat over Central Florida. Great racing for the B final there. All right. We will be getting ready for now the men's varsity 8. That goes off at 1:09. We are a couple of minutes away from that. And actually, they started the race a little bit early. So here we have the men's varsity 8 with Vanderbilt in 1, Virginia in 2, Colgate in 3, JU, Jacksonville University in 4, FIT in 5, and Notre Dame in lane 6. So the view from the start, as they went off the starting blocks there, we're going to catch up to them with the drone. A little bit of a headwind out here. You see the times now on the B final, 6 minutes, 22 seconds. This course being cold water, if you can break the 6-minute mark, that's the goal. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But with a little headwind, that's probably unlikely. So here we are, that men's varsity 8, still looking from the starting blocks down the course. And there's our drone shot. Drone shot showing in the middle, lane 3 and 4, which is Colgate and Jacksonville University, with that lead on the in lane 2, Virginia in lane 5, FIT. And just outside of them, lane 1, it is Vanderbilt. Lane 6 in Notre Dame. That's that typical pattern of the middle of the course, which is the Colgate JU boats. Virginia in lane 2 might have a slight edge over FIT in lane 5 at this point. Again, they would have gone through that start. They would have gone through the shift. They're in the body of the race now, and they've already crossed that 500-meter mark. Colgate now, if I go back to when they did their time trial, Colgate had about a 7-8 second lead on the rest of the field on anyone else. So here we have Colgate and JU very close to each other. So maybe there were some rigging changes. Maybe there was some extra pasta last night. So Colgate JU just about a boat length up on Florida Tech. Florida Tech in third place right now. They're followed by Notre Dame in lane 6. About a half a length up on Notre Dame on the far side of the course. You got Virginia about even with Notre Dame, so about a half length down on FIT, and on Vanderbilt in lane 1. Just a little bit of open water behind Virginia at the moment. We've got Colgate now open water, breaking open water on Florida Tech. Florida Tech still sitting in third position. JU now, just the deck links, just the decks overlapping between FIT and JU. FIT's bow overlapping the stern deck, so the coxswain of JU is about on the bow ball of FIT. Notre Dame here, closest to the camera here, about a half length down on FIT. That hasn't changed much in the last few hundred meters. Colgate rowing 37.5 strokes a minute in the lead. JU at 36.5 strokes a minute. We'll see what FIT is at. Lead changes. FIT now has moved up slightly on JU. It was about decks overlapping. It looks like FIT has moved up a seat, maybe, on Jacksonville University. Jacksonville University now looks like they've recognized that and they're trying to pull it back a little bit. But the bow of FIT's boat was on the coxswain. Now it's on the 7th seat of Jacksonville University. Colgate, on the other hand, looks like they are breaking free of the field. .350 meters to go. FIT at 39 strokes a minute. Can they catch JU? That's the goal here. In-state rivalry. Colgate now in the comfortable position. Colgate running for the gold medal here. At 41, Colgate at 41 strokes a minute. .39 Jacksonville. FIT is not going to have enough room to catch JU. They made up some ground, but it's not going to be enough. Colgate now with open water. Virginia on the far side of the course trying to hold off Notre Dame. Colgate bow to stern on Jacksonville. Jacksonville half a length over FIT. And Notre Dame taking out Virginia at the line. And Vanderbilt. Well done, everybody. That quite a day. Perfect day for rowing here. Couldn't ask for better conditions. Thank you all for listening and watching.
I guess now you're done, you can take the cold one. Yeah. Nice job commentating.
Oh, God. Glad it wasn't all day. That would have been hard.
Much better than just kind of like seeing the boats, kind of see them go by, but not like getting all the context and hearing what's happening.
I can't tell. It sounds really loud to me.
White flag. I'm interfering with everybody. Time to their spiel?
Right.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're done here.